So let me tell you about one campaign that was developed at our global group marketing team. It was called 4Cs: Connect, Communicate, Collaborate with Confidence. And what that looked like in South Africa and some of our other regions in Australia and in Europe was very different from what we saw needed to happen within the US. So we took some of the basic materials, but things like images that were appropriate in Europe and appropriate in Africa were absolutely not appropriate here. I recall seeing one advertisement that they were pushing, our group marketing was pushing for use in the US, and it was completely irrelevant. It looked like something that you would see in a magazine in Europe or in Asia, but it didn't look like something that would be interesting to our business-to-business customers here. And I think that's really one point to understand if you're going to go into marketing, is that understanding what and who your market is and what and who your culture is that you're using. So if you are responsible for marketing in the US, you've got to look at marketing one way. If you're responsible for marketing in other parts of the world, as I was, I really relied on my local teams there to give me a sense of what were the cultural nuances, what would work well, what would not work well, what were some examples of campaigns that were highly successful in other companies in their countries, and really relied upon that. My background actually wasn't in business-to-business marketing. My background was in consumer packaged goods, in the hotel industry, in public relations, and I really kind of gravitated and relied upon those experiences to help me understand that while people are people and there are very many similarities, each culture is different. And that's the case whether you're in the US, whether you're in Asia, whether you're in Europe, and you need to take that into consideration when you're looking at markets and communicating to customers.
Did you have to hire externally to figure out the nuances of some of your markets, or was that all internally driven?
In many cases, I identified where there were gaps and skills. And in those cases, I absolutely needed to retain the resources of people that had expertise in those areas. And so whether it was a functional gap or a gap in terms of being able to understand the culture, those would be, we would look at contractors or subcontractors or having outsourcing campaigns to a specific agency who understood that best. And that was definitely the case in Canada. We couldn't afford a full-time person on the ground when we were entering that market. We wanted to make sure that we had a strong base. We researched agencies and we picked an agency that we felt had a very strong capability to help us enter into that market. They did a fantastic job and actually helped us reshape our marketing plan. We had one way that we were going about it, and they came alongside and said, no, actually in Toronto, this will work better, and you have to keep in mind, it's got to be bilingual. It has to be French Canadian as well as English, which we hadn't even considered. So it was very good. They helped us navigate some of those pitfalls that we would have really kind of stubbed our toe on if we hadn't had them.
So did it go smoothly?
It went very smoothly. And in fact, after entering the market, we were profitable within the first 12 months of entering that market. And the company still maintains a very strong position as the number 2 market leader in that country for the IT services we provided.
And so what do you think your biggest learning was from this role?
Not to rely on what you know as to be the axioms or the maxims within marketing in the US, because it may be very different in the countries that you're trying to market, and really relying on the local expertise of how to best reach your customers and how to best grow your market share.
What'd you like best about your job?
The variety. Going from Canada one day and working on a project with our Portuguese colleagues the next day, entering a new market in Chile on the day following. And it's very interesting, and marketers have a lot to offer in those countries. I think we as Americans think we have the lock on marketing. That's simply not the case, and you can really learn a lot from your colleagues outside the United States that you can then apply back here to have a stronger marketing plan.
It must have been a little bit daunting taking your experience and moving into such a global position. How did you personally handle that or adjust?
I I really looked at what were the core issues that I wanted to have. Number one is I wanted to attract customers, and two, I wanted to retain customers. And those are strong positions in any kind of market, and really relied on the things that at the end of the day, customers want value and they want to be communicated to appropriately and authentically. And that's true regardless of culture. And so it's really, based on that, that's how I would make my decisions and try to make the decisions that I thought would be in the best interest of our customers.
And so it was natural to grow into the larger role over time because I think you ended up taking on additional responsibilities, correct, as you grew with the company?
Exactly. When I first started out, we were simply operating in the US. We didn't have operations in Canada. We didn't have operations in Brazil. We didn't have operations in Mexico or Chile. And when I left my position most recently, we had operations in all 5 countries.
Great. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck.